I got to be really honest with you. I'd almost rather scrap it or sell it and then just start again somewhere else.
This is co-star Kody Brown. On the Bravo Celebrities Casual Chaos podcast posted August 8th, Gia referenced tense combos with a headline-making Kody.
The moment Kody Brown stepped onto the Special Forces set, the energy shifted, and not in a good way. It wasn't just the grueling physical challenges or the freezing cold that tested the recruits. From day one, whispers started swirling that Kody wasn't fitting in. And now, thanks to Gia Giudice's recent remarks, we finally have confirmation. Behind the cameras, things were tense, painfully tense, and Kody found himself at the center of that storm. Gia didn't spill every detail, but what she did say painted a clear enough picture for fans who've been watching Kody for years on Sister Wives. If you know his history, you can almost guess how those off-screen moments unfolded. We're talking about a man who has spent over a decade being the loudest voice in the room, calling the shots, and refusing to budge when challenged. But Special Forces isn't a world where one man can take control. It's about teamwork, humility, and earning respect through action. 3 things that have never come easy for Kody. And here's where it gets interesting. Those same behaviors that caused cracks in his plural marriage on Sister Wives seem to have followed him straight into the Special Forces environment. The stubbornness, the defensiveness, the inability to read the room when others are reaching their limit. For viewers, it's not a shock. For his castmates, it might have been exhausting. I'm Sarah, and this is TLC Sister Wives Daily. If you've been following the Browns as closely as we have, you know this is more than just a TV crossover. This is Kody being Kody, in an arena where his usual tactics just don't work. Stick around because we're diving into the reality behind the headlines and why Gia's comments have sparked a whole new wave of conversations about him. Make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and tell me in the comments. Are you surprised? Kody clashed with the cast, or is this exactly what you expected? On Sister Wives, we've had more than a decade to study Kody Brown's reality TV persona. And let's be honest, it's one that doesn't easily mesh with a high-pressure, team-first environment like Special Forces. On Sister Wives, Kody operates within a structure where he's the self-proclaimed leader. He decides when meetings happen, how discussions unfold, and often whose voice gets heard the loudest, and it's usually his own. The family may look like a democracy on paper, but we've seen in countless episodes how difficult it can be for Kody to truly embrace group consensus. Whether it was planning the big move to Flagstaff, discussing the future of the Coyote Pass property, or even handling the delicate emotions around Christine leaving, Kody's version of listening often came with conditions. He'd hear people out, but ultimately, things needed to line up with his vision. Now drop that same personality into the Special Forces environment. This is a setting where you're stripped of control from the moment you arrive. No comfortable home base, no familiar support network, no ability to dictate the pace or direction of the group. Instead, every person, no matter their fame or backstory, is expected to pull equal weight, follow instructions without debate, and put the team's success above personal pride. And that's where the clash becomes almost inevitable. Fans can easily recall moments from Sister Wives when Kody's inability to actively listen created deep rifts. Think back to the episodes where Janelle tried to voice concerns about finances, only for Kody to brush her off until tensions boiled over, or when Mary's feelings about her increasingly isolated marriage were met with defensiveness instead of empathy. These aren't just TV moments, they're examples of a pattern where humility takes a back seat to control. In a high-stress, team-oriented challenge like Special Forces, that kind of energy doesn't just stand out, it can disrupt the group dynamic entirely. Tasks require precise communication, trust, and the ability to admit when you need help. But if you've built your public persona around being the unshakable authority, letting down that guard can feel like weakness. And for Kody, that guard is almost always up. So when Gia Giudice hints that things were far from friendly on set, it's not hard to imagine the friction points. Kody isn't used to blending into the background or deferring to someone else's plan. And when the stakes are physical exhaustion, mental strain, and survival in extreme conditions, that resistance to adapt doesn't just frustrate, it wears on everyone around you. This isn't about one bad day on set. It's about a man stepping into an environment built on values that directly challenge the way he's operated for years. And from the sound of it, Special Forces didn't bend to fit Kody Brown. Kody Brown struggled to bend to fit Special Forces. Gia Giudice dropped words that made viewers sit up. She didn't roast Kody outright. She didn't spill actual fights. But the tone? It was sharp. When she talked about being separated at the get-together and only realizing who was on the cast by recognizing Brianna at the pool, that alone says something. That sets the scene. Everyone was handled like a mystery until they scrambled to figure each other out. And Gia's follow-up? She said most people got along, but then added, except for him. That pause, that delivery tells us everything we needed to know. She didn't accuse him of anything crude, yet she carved out a space in her words that made it clear. The guy didn't gel. In Sister Wives, Kody may have been the center of his own world, but at least that world was familiar. In Morocco, during those early days of isolation, he had zero comfort zone. Gia's remarks felt like confirmation. There were scenes off-camera where he wasn't syncing with others. She called out a fracture without naming names. And that's the strongest kind of call-out. Contrast that with people like Brianna. She seemed to find a rhythm even before camp started. Recognizing her at the pool meant something. She had presence. And then there's Sean Johnson and her husband Andrew. They run their own lane but seem to fit into the team dynamic without friction. Even Gia and Teresa, they roll as a duo. They recognize group energy and adjust. That speaks volumes about how quickly someone else can adapt when they've figured out the rhythm. Kody? He stood apart. Isolation doesn't just happen because people exclude you. Sometimes it happens because your energy pushes others to step back. His reputation on Sister Wives as someone who moves slower to shift when things don't suit him, someone who struggles when he isn't in charge. That energy in a survival-style show echoes differently. It feels heavy. It might feel out of step with the urgency and trust the group has to build fast. And the fact one contestant went public with subtle hints means it wasn't a passing moment. It was real. That doesn't mean the cast hated him. It means they didn't connect with him. And in the world of Special Forces, connection isn't optional. It's essential. Gia's careful phrasing, "Everyone got along, except him," reads like a headline nobody wanted to say out loud, but everybody knew was true. Kody Brown's public image isn't something you turn off between shows. It's on display every time he steps into a shared challenge. On Sister Wives, fans watched him build a certain presence. He carried himself as the decision maker. He weighed in at length on family decisions, real estate moves, and how everyone should feel about the changes ahead. Opinions from the wives, the kids, even the consultants. That input mattered, but Kody's priority always seemed clear, how things aligned with his vision. We've seen it in episode. As like when the family debated that big move to Flagstaff. Kody laid out criteria, timelines, expectations. He accepted feedback only if it didn't alter his plan. We remember the tension when Christine pulled the plug on one of their wives' meetings because she felt unheard, or when Mary admitted her heart felt shattered over John's betrayal, and Kody responded like he was defending his leadership, not offering comfort. That pattern isn't just a storyline. It shaped how the family related to him. So when he walked onto the Special Forces set, could you blame cast members for feeling a certain way? You're standing beside a guy whose reality show history is all about order, control, a self-declared anchor. That can feel heavy. That energy doesn't say, "Let's figure this out together." It says, "I know what's right and I'm here to show you." That tone can echo fast in a group where trust depends on vulnerability and equality. Imagine a team formed under pressure. It doesn't welcome the person who wants to reset the rules. It welcomes the person who holds up their end first, who admits their limits, who asks for help. On Special Forces, nobody's title or TV resume buys you leeway. If you can't follow, if you hold back help, if you insist on your own message, you risk the group's cohesion. And public perception makes it worse. If someone shows up with a reputation for being controlling, others tend to step back rather than step in. That might explain why Kody ended up off to the side. His reputation preceded him. Mentally, he arrived carrying more than fatigue and expectations. He carried the weight of what people already assumed he'd be, on a show where silence can mean strength. An ego that speaks loudly becomes a distraction. This isn't about throwing shade. It's about reality. There's a time and place to lead. In the plural marriage, Kody found that role. In Special Forces, the rules switched. Ego isn't a badge, it's baggage. And if you carry it too loud into a team survival setting, you become a liability, not a leader. On Sister Wives, one constant has been Kody's reliance on Robin, not just as a partner, but as his most consistent source of validation. Across countless episodes, we've seen how she not only defends his choices, but reinforces his narratives. When other wives push back, Christine questioning the Flagstaff move, Janelle calling out his COVID rules, Robin is the one who backs him, softens his image, or reframes the conflict in ways that support his leadership. Think back to the family discussions in later seasons. When tensions reached a boiling point, Kody often turned toward Robin's agreement like a shield. In the Flagstaff House debates, her steady nods and supportive comments seemed to steady him, even when the rest of the table bristled. In the COVID argument scenes, it was Robin who not only agreed with his strict rules, but suggested that the others were being unfair. In many ways, she became his emotional anchor in a sea of dissent. But Special Forces isn't filmed with emotional anchors in reach. There's no private conversation to recalibrate his confidence, no familiar ally to confirm that he's in the right. On the set, stripped of his home base and the built-in reinforcement that Robin provides, Kody was on his own in a very different way than viewers have ever seen. That absence might not just feel uncomfortable. It could feel disorienting for someone so used to having a reliable backup in public and private confrontations. It's reasonable to imagine how that dynamic, or lack of it, could amplify his social challenges in a high-stress group. In Sister Wives, when Kody is criticized, Robin's voice often steps in to either defend or redirect. Without that safety net, criticism or pushback in Special Forces could have landed harder, lingering without someone there to immediately validate his position. That kind of emotional isolation can make even a confident person retreat, or worse, double down, in ways that alienate the group. Perception matters, especially in a team survival setting. If other participants saw Kody as someone who relied heavily on a single ally in his everyday life, the lack of that ally might have reinforced the idea that he couldn't adapt on his own. Even subtle signs, hesitation before speaking, less willingness to engage in group banter, holding back opinions unless invited, can read as uncertainty or detachment. And in a setting where cohesion is everything, that gap can widen fast. For Kody, whose TV identity is so deeply intertwined with Robin's support, this was uncharted territory. On Special Forces, there was no us to buffer the me. And without that familiar dynamic, what we saw wasn't the forceful patriarch from Sister Wives. It was a man navigating an unfamiliar arena without his most trusted ally by his side. When you strip it down, the heart of this clash is simple. Kody Brown walked into Special Forces carrying years of deeply ingrained habits from Sister Wives. On his home turf, he's used to controlling the conversation, leaning on Robin for backup, and framing disagreements in ways that maintain his authority. But Special Forces doesn't play by those rules. It's an environment built on shared hardship, immediate trust, and equal footing, none of which leave room for hierarchies or safe alliances. The result? A perfect storm. The confidence that works in his world can read as stubbornness in theirs. The selective listening that's tolerated in a family discussion can come across as unwillingness to adapt in a survival setting. And without Robin's steady reinforcement, Every moment of pushback hit a little harder and lingered a little longer. That's where Gia's comments land with such weight. Rarely do we get these kinds of unfiltered glimpses into what it's like to work alongside Kody in a high-pressure setting, especially outside the bubble of the Brown family dynamic. Her words didn't just critique. They peeled back the curtain on tensions that longtime sister wives, viewers have suspected but never seen confirmed in a completely separate environment. For fans who followed this story for years, it's almost surreal. The patterns we've watched play out in living rooms and confessionals were suddenly exposed on a stage where none of the usual defenses worked. No editing could soften it, no family member could step in to redirect it. Just Kody, the challenge, and the reactions of people who had no stake in his family history. So now it's your turn. Did you see this outcome coming the moment he signed on? Or did Special Forces surprise you by showing a version of Kody you hadn't expected? Maybe Gia's blunt honesty changed your view, or maybe it confirmed everything you've thought for years. One thing's for sure, whether you see it as a wake-up call, a reality check, or just another chapter in the Kody Brown saga, this moment will be remembered. Because for once, the patterns weren't just playing out at home, they were put to the ultimate test. And the whole world got to watch.